They say the past never dies, it waits in the shadows, patient as a vulture. I had almost believed mine was gone. Life in Mureba village had grown soft for me, a loving husband, a modest home, the steady rhythm of planting and harvest. But on the night of the harmattan winds, I heard it. A child's cry. Not just any cry, that cry. The one I had heard 17 years ago, under the old palm tree, when my heart was still wild and foolish. I froze at the sound, a basin of millet in my hands. The wind tore at the thatch roof, but the wail cut through, sharp, unyielding. My husband, Kelechuku, snored in the corner, unaware that the earth beneath our home had shifted. I knew no child lived near our farm. I knew the sound could not be real. But I also knew it was a voice I had once tried to silence, and failed. The millet slipped from my fingers, spilling like tiny bones across the floor. And in that moment, I understood. Whatever I buried years ago had come back. You may run from your sins, but they learn to walk. If your past knocked tonight, would you answer? I did not sleep that night. The cry kept replaying in my head. It pulled me back to the place I had sworn never to visit again, the old palm tree by the river bend. 17 years ago, I stood there in the dark, holding something small, something warm, and crying harder than I ever had before. I was only 16, scared, and alone. That was the night I left my newborn baby there. I had told no one. Not even my mother. Now, hearing that same cry again, my chest felt tight. Was someone playing a trick on me? Or was it a sign, a warning? At dawn, I walked to the palm tree. The trunk was older, the bark cracked like old skin. The ground was covered with dry leaves, but I could still remember the exact spot. I bent down, touched the earth. It was cold, but in my mind, I could still feel the warmth of that tiny body. Then I saw it, a single beaded bracelet lying on the ground. It was the same one I had left with the baby. The past does not vanish, it waits for the right season to return. What would you do if a secret refused to stay buried? I held the bracelet in my hand for a long time. The beads were worn, their colors faded, but I knew them well. I had made them myself, threading them by the fire while I waited for my baby to be born. Someone had been here. Someone new. As I turned to leave, I saw a figure standing a few meters away. A young woman. Her eyes were fixed on me, dark and unblinking. She didn't speak, didn't smile. Just stood there like she had been waiting. "Who are you?" I asked, my voice shaking. She tilted her head slightly, as if studying my face. Then, without a word, she walked away into the trees. I wanted to follow, but my legs felt heavy. My heart pounded as I watched her vanish. When I got home, Kelechuku was already outside, fixing the goat pen. He asked where I'd been so early. I told him I had gone to fetch water. He didn't need to know. Not yet. But in my pocket, the bracelet burned against my palm like a living thing. The truth always comes dressed in silence before it speaks. Would you chase the stranger who might hold your deepest secret? All day, I couldn't stop thinking about the young woman. Her face. It was too familiar. I had only seen her for a short time, but something in her eyes felt like a mirror. That night, I sat alone by the cooking fire. The flames danced, and the shadows made the walls seem closer. I whispered the name I had never told anyone. Ozioma. It was the name I had chosen for my baby before she was born. A name I had buried with her under that palm tree. I told myself the young woman couldn't be her. It was impossible. My baby would be 17 now, but that girl had looked about that age. Kelechuku came in, smiling, holding a bowl of yam. He sat beside me, unaware that my hands were trembling. When I finally lay down to sleep, I heard it again. Not a cry this time, but a soft humming like a lullaby. It came from outside our window. I wanted to get up, to look, but fear kept me still. The heart knows the truth long before the mind accepts it. If your lost child stood outside your window, would you open the door? Morning came too quickly. My eyes felt heavy, but my mind was sharper than ever. I stepped outside to fetch water and saw something strange near the door, a folded piece of paper weighed down with a small stone. I picked it up. The paper was rough, torn from an old notebook. On it, in neat handwriting, were 5 words. You left me to die. My knees went weak. I sat on the step, the words burning into me. I looked around the yard. No one was there. The path to the road was empty, but my heart told me the young woman had been here. I hid the paper in my wrapper before Kelechukwu could see. He called from inside, asking if the goats had water. I answered quickly, trying to sound normal. All day, I carried the letter in my pocket. I couldn't throw it away. I read it again and again until the words carved themselves into my chest. That night, I dreamed of the palm tree, but this time, the earth beneath it was open, waiting. The past speaks in many ways, sometimes in ink, sometimes in pain. If someone accused you of the truth you've hidden, would you deny it or confess? The next morning, I decided to go to the market early. Maybe I just needed to clear my head. But as I stepped onto the road, I saw her again, the young woman. She was standing near the well, drawing water. She looked straight at me, her eyes sharp but unreadable. I walked closer, my heart beating fast. Were you at my house? I asked. She didn't answer. Instead, she handed me the rope to pull the bucket. Her hands brushed mine, and I froze. Her skin was warm, almost too warm. You should be careful with what you leave behind, she said softly. Her voice was calm, but the words cut deep. Before I could speak, she picked up her calabash and walked away. I wanted to run after her, to demand answers, but fear tied me to the ground. When I reached home, I found Kelechukwu talking to a neighbor. He smiled at me, but I couldn't smile back. My mind was still at the well, replaying her words over and over. She knew. Somehow, she knew. Sometimes the truth doesn't knock, it walks right up to you. If your past stood face to face with you, would you run or listen? By afternoon, the sky had grown dark. Thick clouds gathered over Mureba, and the wind began to howl. Kelechukwu went to tie the goats, and I stayed inside to cover the cooking fire. But then, 3 knocks came at the door. Slow, heavy, and certain. I opened it, and rain blew in. The young woman stood there, soaked, her eyes fixed on me. Let me in, she said. Something in her voice left no room for refusal. I stepped aside, and she entered, dripping water onto the floor. Kelechukwu came in moments later, surprised. Who is this? He asked. Before I could answer, she spoke. I am someone your wife knew a long time ago. I felt my throat close. Kelechukwu looked from her to me, confused. The woman reached into her wrapper and pulled out a second bracelet, identical to the one I had found under the palm tree. She placed it on the table. Lightning flashed outside, and in that brief light, I saw it. Her eyes. They were my own. Blood calls to blood, even through years of silence. If a stranger carried your eyes, would you still call her a stranger? The room felt smaller. The storm outside roared, but inside it was quiet, too quiet. Kelechukwu looked at me, waiting for an explanation. I couldn't speak. My tongue felt heavy, my hands cold. The young woman sat down like she belonged there. Her wet clothes clung to her, but she didn't seem to notice. You know who I am, she said. I wanted to deny it, but my voice betrayed me. Ozioma, I whispered. Kelechukwu's eyes widened. Who? She leaned forward, her gaze locked on mine. 17 years ago, you left me under that palm tree. I didn't die. Someone found me and raised me, but I always knew I was not theirs. Her words stabbed deep. Every sentence was a wound reopening. Kelechukwu stood slowly. Amara, is this true? I looked at him, tears burning my eyes. I was young. I was afraid. He stepped back, his face pale. The storm cracked the sky again, and for the first time, I felt like the walls of my life were falling. The truth can arrive like thunder, sudden, loud, and impossible to ignore. If the storm of your past entered your home, would you face it or hide? The storm outside grew wilder, rattling the windows. But the real storm was inside our small home. Ozioma didn't look away from me. Her voice was calm, but her words were sharp. Why did you leave me? My mouth opened, but no sound came. I had asked myself that question for years, but I had no answer that could heal the wound. I was a child too, I whispered. I didn't know how to be a mother. I thought you'd be better off without me. She blinked slowly, and I could see the hurt in her eyes. Better off? Do you know what it's like to grow up wondering why your own mother didn't want you? Kelechukwu looked between us, his face full of questions he wasn't ready to ask. I wanted to find you, I said, my voice shaking. But I was afraid of what I would see. The wind slammed the door shut, and for a moment, the room went dark. When the light returned, she stood. I didn't come here for excuses. I came for the truth. Some wounds do not want comfort, they want honesty. If the one you had asked you why, could you speak the truth? That night was the longest of my life. Ozioma stayed until the stars faded. We talked quietly, about the past, the pain, and the years lost between us. I told her everything I had never told anyone, the fear, the shame, and the cold night when I left her under the palm tree. She listened without anger, but her eyes held a sadness that cut deeper than any word. Kelechukwu watched us both, unsure how to comfort either of us. At one point, I asked, "Do you hate me?" She shook her head slowly. I don't know yet. But I want to try to understand. We cried together, two broken pieces trying to find a way to fit. When she left, the air felt lighter, but my heart still carried the weight of what I had done. I knew the road ahead would be hard. But for the first time, I felt hope. Healing begins when pain is shared, not hidden. Can forgiveness grow in the soil of truth? Word spread quickly in our small village. People talked in the market, at church, and even at the well. They whispered about me, about Ozioma, and the secret I had kept for so long. Some shook their heads and said, she brought shame. Others said, maybe God will forgive her one day. I felt eyes on me everywhere I went. Kelechukwu stood by me, strong and silent. He told me, we face this together. Ozioma did not come to the village for a while. She stayed in town, waiting for the right time. One afternoon, she walked to our small home. She wore simple clothes and carried no anger. She said, I am ready to face them. To be your daughter, no matter what they say. My heart was full but heavy. The hardest part was not their words but the fear of losing the family I still had. Truth may break silence but also builds bridges if courage leads the way. When everyone is watching, would you stand tall or hide in the shadows? The day came when we faced my family together. Mrs. Busy Ajayi, my mother, looked at Ozioma with tears in her eyes. Papa was silent, his face hard like stone. Ozioma spoke first. I am her daughter, she said softly. I want to know my family, to find my place. My mother held her hands. I am sorry for the years lost, she whispered. Papa finally spoke. You kept this from us for too long. His voice was cold, but I saw pain behind it. We sat together and talked for hours. Some wounds opened, but some hope grew too. Ozioma smiled, then I saw a light I had missed for years. I felt the weight on my heart lifting, little by little. This was only the beginning. But maybe, just maybe, we could find a new way to be family. Families are made stronger when truth finds its voice. Can a family broken by secrets become whole again? Days passed slowly, but each day brought a little healing. Ozioma and I spent time together, learning who we were beyond pain. We shared stories, laughter, and tears. The village started to change too. People who once whispered now nodded when they saw us. Kelechuku stood by my side, proud and strong. He said, "You are brave. You are not alone." Sometimes, I still felt afraid of being judged, of losing what I had left. But Ozioma held my hand, reminding me that love could heal even the deepest wounds. One evening, as the sun set behind the hills, we planted a tree together. It was small but full of promise. That tree would grow strong, just like us. We had a long journey ahead, but for the first time, I believed in a future without shame. Healing begins with courage and grows with love. When pain turns to hope, will you let it grow? Life slowly began to change. Ozioma went to school, eager to learn. She worked hard, dreaming of a better future. I found work at the market selling vegetables. It was not easy, but it was honest. People still remembered the past, but many saw how we were changing. One day, a neighbor came with news. "Your story has reached the town council," she said. "They want to help families like yours." I felt nervous but hopeful. Maybe this was a chance to help others who hid their pain. Ozioma smiled. "We can make things better," she said. Together, we decided to speak at a village meeting. We shared our story, the fear, the mistakes, and the healing. Some people cried, others nodded. For the first time, silence was broken by understanding. New beginnings grow from the seeds of truth and courage. If you could start over, what story would you tell? One evening, I walked to the palm tree where it all began. The ground was soft from recent rain. I knelt down and touched the earth. "I am sorry," I whispered. Memories flooded back, fear, shame, and pain. But also hope. Ozioma stood behind me, holding my hand. She said, "We cannot change the past, but we can choose our future." That night, I prayed harder than ever. I asked for strength to forgive myself and to heal. The village slowly began to accept us. People no longer whispered, but smiled and said hello. Kelechuku told me, "You are brave, and you are loved." I smiled, feeling the weight lift a little more. I learned that facing the past is never easy. But it is the only way to free yourself from its chains. Courage to face the past opens the door to freedom. What chains in your life are waiting to be broken? One day, Ozioma surprised me with a small gift. It was a wooden box, hand-carved and smooth. Inside, she had written a letter. She said, "This is my gift to you, forgiveness." Tears came to my eyes. I had carried so much pain, but her forgiveness felt like fresh air. We sat together, reading the letter again and again. Her words were kind, honest, and full of hope. I knew that forgiving myself was the hardest part. But with her help, I felt ready to try. Kelechuku hugged us both and said, "Love can heal even the deepest wounds." The village started to see our story not as shame, but as a lesson. People came to talk, to learn, and to heal themselves too. I realized that my pain was not the end of my story. It was a new beginning, one written with courage, truth, and love. Forgiveness is a gift that frees both the giver and the receiver. Who do you need to forgive today, yourself or someone else? The sun rose over Mureba, warm and bright. Ozioma and I stood together, looking at the village we both called home. Our story was no longer a secret. It was a lesson, a story of pain, courage, and forgiveness. I knew the road ahead would not be easy. There would be hard days and moments of doubt. But I was no longer afraid. I had found strength in truth and peace in forgiveness. Ozioma smiled, her eyes full of hope. We are not defined by our past, she said. We are defined by the choices we make today. Kelechukwu held my hand, steady and strong. Together, we would face whatever came next. The village had learned to see us with new eyes. And I had learned to see myself with a new heart. Life was not perfect, but it was real. And sometimes, that is enough. The past shapes us, but it does not define us. What choice will you make today to shape your tomorrow? No matter how far we run, our past will always find a way to reach us. True healing begins when we face our truths and seek forgiveness from others and ourselves. Courage to be honest can break chains that hold us captive in shame. Love and forgiveness have the power to rebuild even the most broken hearts. What truth are you ready to face today to set yourself free? The end. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the story, give us a thumbs up and share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content. Hit the notification bell to stay updated. Your support means everything to us.